Both of you will be executed. When the officer stepped out, Michelle told her friend that they needed to kill the officer. Hello friends, welcome to my channel Recap Stories. Today, we will talk about a fascinating story set in the future. In this future, the world was divided into two parts. One part was known as Offshore, where only the rich lived. They had access to all the luxuries and led a life of comfort and privilege. On the other hand, the poor lived in slums, struggling to survive amidst challenging conditions. However, there was one opportunity to improve this life. This opportunity came when individuals turned 20 years old. At this age, they were allowed to participate in the selection process. Only 3% of the participants would be chosen to live in Offshore. Those who failed were sent back to their impoverished neighborhoods to continue their harsh lives. The story revolves around Michelle, a young girl who had registered for the selection process. She had to reach the test location within 20 minutes. Registered candidates had a special device attached behind their ears, emitting a red light. This device, provided by offshore authorities, acted as their entry pass. Michelle, along with her friend, reached the selection location. The chief addressed all the candidates, explaining that the process would be conducted with utmost fairness and transparency. He emphasized the value of life in offshore and revealed that only 3% of participants would qualify for it. During this, a new female employee approached the chief. She informed him that she had been sent by higher authorities to identify flaws in his work. Although the chief did not appreciate the interference, he reluctantly said nothing. The interviews began, and many candidates failed and were sent back to their previous lives. Passing the test was incredibly difficult. Meanwhile, Michelle's interview commenced. She was asked several personal questions. During the interview, she mentioned her boyfriend, who had participated in the selection process the previous year but never returned. This implied that he might have reached Offshore. However, the interviewer suggested otherwise, saying, it's not certain that he reached Offshore. He could have passed away or faced an unfortunate incident. Then, the interviewer asked Michelle to remove her boyfriend's necklace, which she considered his last memory. Michelle reluctantly took off the necklace and placed it aside. This act was seen as her emotional strength, and she was deemed successful in this phase of the test. The story then shifts to Marco, a confident young man whose entire family had passed the selection process and settled in Offshore. His confidence impressed the selectors, and he was chosen as well. Next, we see Alex, a determined candidate who was desperate to make it to Offshore at any cost. He spoke incessantly, trying his best to complete the first round. However, Alex's behavior displeased the interviewer, and he was eliminated in the very first round. Alex called the process unfair and flawed, but his objections were ignored, and he was escorted out. Next, we see Johanna, a smart and intelligent girl. She spoke less but was selected due to her cleverness. All the selected candidates were mentally and physically strong, except Fernando, who was physically disabled. Despite his limitations, he cleared the first round because of his courage and determination. Meanwhile, the offshore authorities learned that the rebellious group had secretly sent a spy into the selection process. They quickly identified the spy and tortured him to extract the truth. The spy confessed that another infiltrator was also present, relaying information to the rebellious group. The rebellious group, Offshore's biggest adversary, sought to eliminate social inequality. According to their philosophy, if everyone is equal, why should poor people suffer? Selected candidates were then moved to another room for the second round. Here, their devices, implanted behind their ears, were examined to ensure their authenticity. Johanna noticed a scar instead of a device on the ear of a boy named Raphael. However, she chose not to reveal this information. When it was Raphael's turn, he passed the scanning process, which deepened Johanna's suspicion. Afterward, the candidates were tasked with building cubes within 10 minutes. Everyone began constructing cubes quickly. Fernando, due to his physical disability, struggled to reach the blocks. Michelle helped Fernando by giving him blocks, enabling him to start building cubes. As the timer approached its end, Michelle had completed only 8 cubes. Fernando assisted her by building 1 cube, bringing her total to 9. On the other hand, Raphael was short by 1 cube. To compensate, he stole a cube from another candidate. Although Raphael had cheated, he was declared successful. The other candidates criticized him for his dishonesty and, in anger, beat him up, leaving him injured. Upon witnessing this, the group regretted their actions. However, Johanna showed no sympathy. She approached Raphael and said, "If you don't help me, I'll inform the authorities that you cheated to be here." Meanwhile, a new officer appeared, tasked with inspecting the chief's work. She wanted to find faults in his actions to have him removed from his position and claim it for herself. At the same time, we see Michelle and her friend being suspected by an offshore officer. The officer took them to a room and asked, "Which one of you is working with the rebellious group? If neither of you confesses, both of you will be executed." When the officer stepped out, Michelle told her friend that they needed to kill the officer. However, when the officer returned, Michelle's friend attacked her. Michelle, on the other hand, did nothing, intending to frame her friend and save herself. It was revealed that Michelle was the real member of the rebellious group. Her friend was killed, and Michelle proceeded to the next round. At this point, it became clear that Michelle's motive wasn't to reunite with her boyfriend but her brother, who had participated in the selection process the previous year. Michelle wanted to meet her brother and work towards eradicating the divide between the rich and the poor. The story then unveils Fernando's background. Since childhood, Fernando had suffered from a leg problem. His father always cared for him and encouraged him to believe that he could pass the test and go to Offshore, where he could receive treatment and walk again. Fernando underwent a medical examination where the doctor pricked his legs with a needle, causing him to feel pain for the first time. The doctor said, "If you pass all the stages and get selected for Offshore, your legs can be treated, and you'll be able to walk." Afterward, all candidates were sent to the next room for another challenge. On a table, there were 4 mannequins with different facial expressions. The task was to deduce their stories based on their expressions and explain what had happened to them. Each participant created their own version of events. Fernando, observing the mannequin of a woman, stated that she had been poisoned. According to his story, she had come to the house as a guest with her husband. However, she was involved with the host of the house. When the host's wife discovered their affair, she poisoned the woman. Everyone liked Fernando's narrative, except Raphael, who dismissed it as unimpressive and shared his own version. He suggested that the woman was allergic to silver, which is why she wore a glass ring and a wooden necklace. Raphael added that she was looking at the other man in the room because he was a doctor and she was seeking his help. When the drawer was searched, anatomical sketches were found, indicating that the man was indeed a doctor. However, Raphael's story did not align with the woman's expressions, and he failed to provide a convincing answer. At this point, Johanna, the most perceptive of the group, declared that the woman was blind, which explained the lack of clear expressions on her face. Upon searching her drawer, they found a book in Braille, confirming Johanna's story is correct. Thus, the group successfully passed this phase of the test. Meanwhile, the chief observed everything from a distance and instructed the new female officer to keep an eye on everyone, as he had to leave for some personal work. The officer followed the chief and discovered him changing clothes in the slum area. Noticing the green light of the surveillance camera, the chief realized he was being monitored but ensured that the officer couldn't gather any substantial evidence against him. Later, the candidates were taken to another room and given 6 clues. These clues implied that one of them had to be eliminated. However, they were confused about whom to choose. Raphael suggested that he had a coin, and those without one should be disqualified. His suggestion led others to consider voting against him. However, Michelle proposed eliminating Johanna, as she was exceptionally clever and could sabotage Michelle's plans. Hearing this, Johanna looked at Raphael, aware of his true identity. Fearing that Johanna might expose him, Raphael supported Michelle's suggestion and proposed that Fernando should be eliminated instead because of his physical condition. Defending himself, Fernando argued that he could recover and become fit if he got to Offshore. In the end, the group decided that the person with the smallest mark would be eliminated. Coincidentally, Johanna had the smallest mark and was forced to leave the room. As she exited, Johanna stole someone's coin and managed to proceed to the next round. And thus, the story concludes. How did you find this story? Let us know in the comments below. I request all of you to help my channel reach 10,000 subscribers soon. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for your heartfelt comments, and we'll see you in the next video.